Rock and roll.
Okay, so welcome back to Wandering into Wellness.
How's it going, guys?
We are here in the grounds of
IMA,
Emma.
the Royal Kilmainham Hospital,
Yeah.
the RKH.
Yes, very pro.
Yeah, well, we've just been getting the emails with all of the acronyms. One has
And
to be on
we're
top of them.
at Wellfest. And we are here with the lovely Jennifer.
Hello.
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 And Jennifer is the founder of The Skin Nerd.
Yes.
Tell us
For
a
my
little
sins.
bit for the people who don't know about you.
Yeah, of course.
About The Skin
So
Nerd.
the Skin Nerd is, well, it started off because I love skin. Surprise, surprise. Nerdy about skin. And I was always traveling the world with different skincare brands, lecturing, teaching people to become beauty therapists. And I remember one night we were out and I used to always compliment people's skin, or if I'd see someone's skin that I thought needed a little bit of help, my friends would be like, "You're an actual freaking nerd about skin." So that's how the Skin Nerd part started. So it became like a nickname within my friends. And then I created a product called the Cleanse Off Mitt, which is a mitt that takes off your makeup in seconds. So it's to rival wipes.
Ooh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Good timings. Hashtag zero waste.
Exactly.
Yeah, very much so. And then, so this is about 6 years ago, launched that, epic fail, had put all my house investment, like everything into the mitt, and didn't work. So then I had like 20,000 mitts, like in everyone's attic that I'd ever meet. I'd be like, "Lydia, lovely to meet you, very familiar. Do you have an attic?
You seem to have an upstairs.
Can I use that for you?" So yeah, so that was it. And then I suppose the media side started coming through with the job that I had where I was doing a lot of facials on the press.
Okay.
And then just kind of started from there. That I started the Skin Nerd blog. So my friends were saying, just, stop talking about skin in your life, like we're going to disown you. And then social media kind of gathered momentum. People really do care about their skin, not from a vanity perspective, but from a health perspective. And then the myths, my mum and dad were like, "We'd like your old bedroom back. You moved out like 12 years ago. These myths have to go." So yeah, so they were like, "We'll ship them for you." So then the myths started selling like mad again. And then I launched an online consultancy business. And then it's kind of all just bananas since then.
So many bits I want to pick into in that.
Yeah, I know.
So
exciting.
your mum and dad are now basically warehousing, or we're warehousing, and also became the dropship like
Absolutely.
authority for
And
getting. Wow.
my son at the time was 12, so he'd come home from school. My mum and dad mind him. My dad has since passed away. My mum minds him still. And he cycled down the road on post, and he'd like post them all off and then come back down and fill up his bag again. It was total family love and
Oh my
slave
God.
labour, I think they would call it.
Yeah,
But he was
so-
paid with a mortgage and a house and a home, so he was loved.
Oh, he's grand.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. Yeah.
He's grand.
It's funny when it comes to family business as well, because there's different expectations, and you sort of like, you never have a formal conversation about, well, you will do this is your job
No.
description. People
Do it.
just start like doing this, like they've got to go, so can we just
Yeah,
ship them?
yeah.
And who's going to the post office? You going? Go get it.
It was so funny. So no, it was phenomenal. It was really amazing, I suppose, because I always believed the product would do well, because from a skin perspective, I was working in a clinic in London and people were using wipes to take their makeup off, and I was like, well, why would you spend X, Y, and Z on products and serums when you're kind of counteracting it by stripping it with all these harsh chemicals? So anyway, that's how it started.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so today I suppose, yeah, it's just.
And
a
what?
little
Tell
league
me
of its own.
when. Let's go back a little bit, because from my point of view, what's interesting is trying to figure out being a mum and
Yes.
being someone who has a business.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this on the phone the other day a little bit, how like it's one thing if you have friends who have jobs where they have like, we work 9 to 5, this is my babysitting hours, this is how much money I bring in every month, and then you're trying to like, I'm trying to look after my kid, I'm trying to pay babysitting costs. But it gets into a whole different thing when you're like a mom or a single mom and you're
Yeah.
trying to organize your babysitting and there's no specific hours and you don't know how much you're working each week or how much money you're bringing in.
Yeah.
That's really tricky. So like,
Yeah.
when did you have your son in relation to when you made the mitt and when you made this change,
Oh,
and how did
God.
that all?
Well, Matthew, I was 18 having a child, pregnant and leaving cert, always what I endorse.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think
great.
it's definitely what you should do
Well,
in life.
biologically correct.
Don't,
Societally,
biologically,
yeah.
CAO
Spring
point,
back.
it's like, well, have a child. I'm
Yeah.
excited. No, so I had him at 18, just turned 18. So
Wow.
my whole career has been with him coming with me. So I remember saying to my mum when I got pregnant, because obviously most parents of 17-year-olds aren't going to naturally embrace it at the beginning, and I was like, this isn't going to stop me. Like, I really was always hungry and
Wow.
driven and wanted to be successful, and I was like, Matthew's going to benefit from this. So he has, like, the jammy little fecker has come to Thailand, Australia,
Okay, yeah.
Hong Kong. He's been on lots of like trips to me in New York, so like America, so he has actually grown with it. So actually going back to that post office story, when he came back, I remember he was 12 and he was like, I used to give him like a little couple of euro whatever for doing his work, and he's like, I did 3 runs extra this week, so like, what are you going to give me? And I was like,
Nice.
more potatoes.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, he's kind of come with me always. I've only ever been an adult and a mother together. I know no different.
Yeah.
So now he actually was asking for photographs of how the stand is. He watched me do it on Instagram Live the other day, and he was like, feedback for next time, you speak far too fast again, and you know,
Ditto.
yeah.
Problems.
But like at 15, he's now like, you know, managing me. He's so funny.
But
so
he's the perfect PA because he's grown alongside the whole thing,
I
and he'd
had
be
to
no
vouch
holds
to him.
barred.
Yeah, exactly. Like totally just saying,
Can't
and
fire
he's
him.
like, stop talking fast, sit up straight, like represent us better. I'm like, all right.
Wow.
All right.
So and
Us.
like, this is. Yeah,
And do you
he's
think
gas.
that
Nice.
made you? Do you think having him though made you choose the career in the way that you did? Do you feel like you needed to mold your life to be more flexible around him, or do you think it's just incidental that it happened that way?
I think the hardest part for me in my 20s was that I spent a lot of time working, knowing that I needed to get somewhere, not knowing that this was the end destination. So I actually flew a lot with work. I worked in London an awful lot, and there was a lot of guilt back and forth with I wanted something special for both of us. I wanted to show him what work ethic was, but you have to give more and take back being. I wasn't as present as a parent as I would like to be when I look back. So I suppose that's the harsh reality.
By present, you mean how much time you're around as opposed to the quality of the time while you're there?
Yeah. But I am obsessed with, and even to this day, we're so much better at balancing. I said this to you, that I'm so much better at balancing my personal life now. But when we come home in the evening, like phones are downstairs. We have to have time together. We have to eat dinner like face to face. There's none of this like in front of the television lark.
He's 15.
Yeah.
Hardcore teen time.
Yeah.
How does that roll? Like, I mean, most kids are screen addicted by the age of 3. Like, and when you're 15, you also want to run away from your parents because they're embarrassing usually. I don't know
not
if that's
embarrassing
different.
at all.
Are you not?
No, not
Oh,
at all.
what? Wow.
I'm like the coolest person ever. No, joking. He's so
Mine is
chilled.
already embarrassing him.
Really?
He's only 4.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm
He's
going to
like,
be
oh, no.
safe till he's like 13, 14, and then.
In what way? What
Well,
does he
I was
do?
driving, like mostly he thinks I'm great. But we were driving to school the other morning, and he has like, I have a playlist on Spotify for him, which is really annoying because now my Spotify predictions include kids music, so I get like
Do you have
A lot of
what's
trolls
that?
or whatever.
Baby
Shark,
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 do 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 do.
I love how like
Yeah,
none of we don't
No,
have children that age and we still like.
Unfortunately,
You guys
it's
are
definitely
like
infused all our lives.
and
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, no, come on.
I
This is
know the
Grandpa.
one
He's
that-
got no teeth.
run away.
This is what Spotify is now chucking out at you as recommended.
Yeah, it's terrible, and it's awful because I also have my yoga ones. So I have
Okay.
like my music, my yoga, and my kids stuff.
Yeah.
So I get a really horrible blend on Spotify that come
Interesting.
in.
I must follow you.
Do.
So is
You
he
might
embarrassed
get-
by you though?
Sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
So when I'm driving him to school in the morning, he'll be like, "Can we listen to, for example, Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You
In May.
in May?"
Favorite
course.
song
And
of all
I'm
time,
like,
365.
Great,
Oh.
let's do it. And then like I have to make it fun for me because I'm listening to that music. So I'm like doing all this kind of stuff in the car and like, "Come on, Rube, let's clap, let's do the thing." And he's like, "Mom, we're driving to
mortified.
school. One of our friends might see me." And I'm like, "Might see me in what?" And he was like, "Be embarrassed." And I'm
Taking
like,
Mariah Carey's
now,
Christmas song
exactly.
seriously.
I'm like,
what?
they should really be embarrassed already.
Yeah.
But I'm like, now I'm like, right,
Brilliant.
I'm walking into school like that. So then I'm like into his classroom, like doing the
You'll have
thing.
nightmares for life. Do you remember that
Poor
time?
child.
Yeah, I remember my dad. So my dad was into classic cars and he used to drive me to school in a Morris Minor.
Oh wow.
I could sort of take it. My sister
No.
couldn't handle it. Like literally. So she'd be dropped. She'd lucky enough to go to Alexandra College, and they get to like the hill beside it, and she would duck her head down. And then at the top of the hill, she's like, "Dad, leave me here," and she would walk like
That
the last
is
500
so
yards. So like
hilarious.
within 5 minutes of her proximity to school, she would not be seen
My
near the Morris
stepdad has
Minor.
classic old Volvos, and he does them up. And he also had Harley Davidsons, which my
Ooh.
stepsister
That is
did
cool.
think was cool.
Well, that is,
of course.
there's
But
no uncool
he used
about
to
that.
drive her to school in the Volvo, which is like I don't really know anything about cars, so I wish I could tell you what it is, but it's a beautiful old red car. And
I can see it.
Yeah.
It's
and
real
I
true.
always thought it was really cool, but she was the same. He would drive her to school, and they would get to the bottom of the hill, and she'd be like, "Duck down!" He'd be like, "Violet, where are you?" And she'd be lying on the floor
Yeah,
of the
literally.
back seat,
Yeah,
just
not
like
even just like head
flat.
down. It's like,
And then she'd be like, "Slow down now," and then she'd just run up the street. And then when we got older, then suddenly it was like, "Can you drive us? Could you drive us in the vintage car, please?
Yeah,
or can you
that
drive us
changes.
in the Harley
Sister changed
Davidson?"
her opinion.
when she got to 17 and because dad was such a car nut, he did up loads of classic cars. He was like, "Okay, when you're 17, we're gonna get you a Mini, we'll do it up with you, and we'll, it's so lucky, like so lucky." So Kate was suddenly very invested in it because suddenly a
Very
Mini is a very
invested.
cool thing if you're driving it yourself.
Of
Not if your
course.
dad's driving a
No,
Mini.
no, this is fair.
Yeah, and then she poured her heart and soul into the little car. She put like the checkerboard roof on. She bought like the dice for it and bought like a sound system and
Whole hog.
whole hog. I mean,
Whole
CD
hog.
changer when CD changers weren't actually that common.
What?
Oh yeah, like before 2000.
What are you going to do for your kid's car?
Exactly.
He's not going to drive till he's 24.
Okay.
I'm joking. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know, I can't, like, that stuff freaks me out, to be honest. Like, he's 15, I'm
I
like,
know.
It's 2
in
years
2.5
from
years, yeah, he's going to be a fully grown adult.
But to come back to it, you're cool in his eyes. That's okay. There's no.
I don't think I'm cool, I just think he is the most relaxed, beautiful soul.
Wow.
So I'm quite excitable and high energy and somewhat giddy at times.
Oh,
and
so you got
he's
one
the
of them as a
polar opposite.
result.
But I'm a big believer that like your children choose you as parents.
Uh-huh.
So I think I'm the entire opposite to him. So we actually are balanced, yeah. So now I wonder if he's just so sedate because I'm so high. So I'm trying to mellow myself at home to see if it like shifts to like
Shifts
a
a balance.
seesaw.
So you got like a little old soul.
I have a very old soul.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So we go to like lots of different healers, and they always say that he has been like around many a time and given beautiful stories. And I'm like, what about me? They're like, no.
You're your
Stop
first time
it.
around. Learn from this
You're
guy.
a newbie. I'm
This
like,
is the Dalai
okay.
Lama. Yeah.
You're like, but I was the vessel for him. So
Yeah, there's gotta be
gotta
a
get
come
some
That
points.
means something, yeah. So,
Isn't that interesting?
yeah, really, really interesting.
It must be
No.
weird being a parent of that because you have a similar-ish situation, don't
Is
you,
he
with
like
Ruben?
a
Yeah.
deep soul?
He is definitely, and he's really sensitive, but he's also really extrovert, and I'd be really
Okay.
introvert.
Okay.
actually.
You're
So
totally
it's a real challenge for me constantly that in school I would have been, the one who the
Right.
teachers really liked, and I was the head girl, and did great in my reports. And
Yeah.
Ruben is just pushes every boundary that he possibly can, and I have to go in and like fight his corner to the teachers. But it's hard for me because a lot of his behaviour I don't relate to. I'm like, just do the thing that you're meant to do. Why would you be like drawing attention to yourself? Just
Yeah.
like
Yeah, it's
fly
weird
under
when-
the radar.
when it's anathema to you. It must be interesting. Are there moments where you're like, does he seem like passive to you to the point where you're like, the get up and go isn't there? Is
He's
that like
quite driven, so like he'll
oh,
get up
wow.
every morning.
He's perfect.
No, he's not. He's still a human. So no, he'll get
Dunno.
up every morning and he'll like go outside and practice. Soccer is his thing. He loves it.
Okay.
So he'll go out every morning and like drill against the wall, or he'll go for a jog, and he eats really well. And like he'll study. The way I want to be one of these people that were like,
Who is this?
you just have to get your work done like now so you can enjoy the rest of the day. I
Yes,
was always
yes.
like, it's 10 minutes till 12 at night, I might start it now.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like up in the morning, gets it done, and enjoys the day. Like he freaks me out.
Oh my god.
So I basically created a much better version of what I'll ever be.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he's really
how,
like a
how
model
much do you
child.
think that he sounds like amazing good egg? I mean, I want
But
to
he's
know.
not emotional. Yeah, but like, I'm really like, I'll cry easily. I'm
Yeah.
happy to show emotions, obviously within like parent-child
Okay.
scenario.
Yeah.
And yet
Okay.
he's just, he does find it hard to get emotions out. So
That's
that's my
interesting.
new challenge.
And I guess, and quite often that's, we've talked about this actually this morning, where somebody is high emotion, the other person necessarily
Probably
has to take it down further than they would ever be. Like when I'm
Yeah.
with my mum, we were over in India.
wow.
It's amazing.
Okay.
But when we were going through airports, it's become a real thing for her. She really doesn't like them, and we had to do a lot of airports. There's a lot of travel while we were there, and I noticed over the time, like I would usually get to airports quite early on and be quite like programmed about it.
Yeah.
Like me and Finn will have a
Systematic.
flight to catch, and
Yeah.
it'll be like, flight takes off at 10, and we don't, I'd be like, okay, cool. So we're gonna
See you
get
there
there
at
at like
8.
9:15.
Oh, 9:15.
And Finn's like, 7?
I'm like,
What are
8
you
is late.
talking about? I'm like, 8? Why would you be there 2 hours early? You're just gonna sit doing nothing. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, skid in at the last minute, spend as little time in the airport, get on that
I
flight.
can see why you get on very well.
yeah, it's weird. But basically, when I had my mum there, it was really interesting because I noticed me turning into the inverse of my usual thing, because mum was like, God, this queue, that queue, like, and it got a bit freaky. I mean, you're in Delhi airport and they're like, the queues are so long that they have people paid to walk up and down, just like call the flights that are like leaving now, and people just like burst through all the
Wow.
barriers and go like, okay, you go with you.
Okay,
It's
okay.
insane. So mum's kind of getting a bit extra hyper from that.
Of
And then
course.
there's women's only queues, and there's different versions of like where you can put stuff, and suddenly they're like, sometimes this liquid's okay, sometimes the liquid's not, and like it can get a bit authoritarian. Understandably, because they just have to get so many people through, and I'm kind of going like, nah, it's cool, mum, chill, it's fine, we'll be fine. I'll grab this, you go on, grab a coffee, and I'll actually get your bag as well. I see it's on that end, giving her all the information. I'm really slow, like as opposed to me usually going bunk, get through, and so then when we got to one point, I got so relaxed that I left my laptop. Actually, I was just like, no, it's okay. I just put my speakers on, walked upstairs with her, like really making her saunter. And then I was like looking up at the top of the queue before we got into onto the plane, and there was like this little thing there in a basket, and they were sort of talking to each other, the two desk attendant people, and I was like, Jesus, that looks like my laptop. I was like, what?
It
And it was a bit of
saw it.
yeah, well, amazing that I saw it, but they bothered to find it and find. That's one of the magic things about India, that people-to-people communication. When they do that, that's phenomenal. Forget the systems, but people, amazing.
Yeah, they're like, there's that thing for that person.
Yeah.
Get that to them now.
So there's something about like your son's kind of like necessary pullback of emotion, probably that has something to do with your heightened thing as well, isn't it?
I'm saying, like, as a person at home, I'm trying to be calmer to see if I can, let him engage with his emotions, see if they come
Because
through.
I think what I was reading as well is that they were saying, in order for kids to feel able to freely express their emotions, they have to feel that their parent can handle those emotions.
Yes.
So as parents, we need to make a real effort to show them that we're capable with any big emotion. So in my stage, that means tantrums now. So it's like, instead of freaking out at the tantrum, being like, it's totally okay for you to feel really mad. It's okay for you. Here's how you can channel that. It's not okay for you to hit me. Yes. It's not okay for you to spit in my face.
Yes.
Which is
I
the
can
current
understand
thing.
that, yes.
But like, here's a pillow. Go jump on the trampoline, and not being like, don't shout, or don't cry, it's not okay, or you're okay, you're grand, shh, shh, shh. So I think, like, as parents, we need to be able to stay strong in the face of their emotions, and then they're like, oh, she can handle that. I don't have to protect her from that. Whereas a lot of us felt like, when you're children, that your parents are going to be stressed out by your emotions, or be emotionally hurt by that, or challenged, and so you naturally protect them from your emotions.
And so how did it feel when you were a kid, raising a kid? Like, did you read stuff? Were you quite, like, I don't know, awoke is that awful term, but like, were you kind of like alive to the modern versions of parenting? Or were you feeding from what your parents had done with you, or how did you make it up as you went along, or what did you do?
Honest answer, the first few years would be wrong for me to say that I really understood what was happening, because I suppose I was so young, and then I was still living at home, trying to manage like everybody's expectations, go to college. So no, it was really only when I got to 22, 23, and Matthew started like becoming his own little human that I started really reading. But I love reading in general, so a lot of my friends would be healers and that around me, so although I might not practice it, you hear a lot of the conversations I have, like, how can I apply that? So I suppose for me, I'm quite a practical person, and then I like to read, but you have to bring it back to the person in front of you. I just say I think it's phenomenal that you went to India with your mom. Like, that's just a beautiful relationship.
It was a really lucky thing. It's a really weird set of circumstances, essentially, like a small inheritance that bypassed mum because my dad has passed away, and some weird Irish law means that she doesn't get it, we do. And I was like, okay. And I just wanted to do something with that was good and experiential, and we sort of set this up to go for the last couple of years, and then we didn't manage to, for various kind of health reasons of hers, and then finally the end of last year I was like, let's just do it. And so like, it was only July that we said like, okay, let's try and do it this year, and then we were like, it was booked in October and we were going in January.
That's brilliant.
And I mean, 3 weeks with your mum doesn't happen when you're an adult. It does, like, individualized, like, that's a massive treat. And I think when we came back, I mean, I'm sort of beginning to, with some people around me's help and whatever else, like, become a bit more alive to those sorts of like relational things. You know, and the fact that you have to opt into them, that they're not just by accident, or not just there for you to run up against whenever you want. And it was an amazing opportunity to be able to kind of develop that. And
I think for us, like, it's an interesting dynamic, actually. I mean, obviously you're known for your stuff with skin, but we were kind of excited when we were chatting on the phone to talk to you today about, like, well, let's not just talk about, like, what are the products you recommend, and what are your, because you've done that, there's loads of that, and it's more like, I think people who know you, certainly what I've encountered is when I've said to people, oh, I might be working with her, or we might be talking to her, they're all like, she's just so nice. Everyone says
they don't know me.
That. It's true. I met you this morning. You are not like you are on camera. And you know, it's nice to get that, because I think sometimes when people's brands start to get bigger, you just get interviewed on the one topic, and you're like, hey, I have a whole life. I'm a person, I have complexities behind this, and it's kind of nice. I mean, especially for me, working within skin as well, so much of skin stuff is to do with emotions, right? And so. Like, what's going on inside, and how are we relating to stress, and how are we feeling about ourselves. So I think it's really relevant for people to hear the stuff behind you, and like, who are you as a person, and how does your life go? But for us, like, we're both mums of boys, and you are a boy with a mum, you know, who's much older. So for us, it's like going, I look at you and those things that you do with your mum, and I'm going,
Reflects
how
on
is it going to be with me and Ruben? And I
Interesting.
hope Ruben wants to go on holiday to India with me for 3 weeks when he's older.
That'd be amazing. That really would. So like, and I said this to Matthew, it's quite a strategic decision. Like, I want to go on significant holidays for the next 3 years so that we have all those memories.
Great.
And he even texted me yesterday. He was in school and he was like, transition years next year. Excuse me.
Text you in the middle of maths class,
Yeah. Yeah. And he texted me. We talk quite a lot. So he
Cool.
was like, can I go on the transition year school trip next year? And I was like, yeah, cool. Italy. He's like, it's a lot of money. And I was like, what am I going to say? And he's like, you can't buy memories. So like, and that's the reality. So like, experiences like that or holidays and time together is everything.
Yeah.
And you must have found this since your dad, I'm sorry to hear his passed away, but you do start to reflect what are the relationships, what do you want from life. And for me, the last year has been the biggest. You say the word awoke, like my friends are sick of me saying that. I'm like, be alive, don't live. Like, who are you? But it's true, because it's really, at the end of the day, it's about relationships with people.
Massively.
And yourself first, and then those humans, as we call them, close to us. So human connection.
And that like the thing, a lot of the things that are becoming like soundbitey at the moment, like we're talking about woke and like self-care, all these sorts of things, like they're frustrating insofar as they can be very glib and heavily marketed terms, but it's amazing that so many people are switching on to them. Like, I mean, we're at Wellfest today, where there's like, most people are here just for their health. I mean, we were walking, it was like the attack of the zombies in Lycra, basically, in leather.
Even just driving in, everywhere on the streets, once you got within 10 minutes, there were all these people in yoga clothes and yoga mats. You're like, surely everyone's not going to Wellfest, but it was just like, they're arriving en masse.
Yeah, but all to focus on health at whatever level they're bringing it. But it's but it's amazing to, like, I just don't think that there was, 10 or 15 years ago such a notional awareness that 5 years ago even possibly. So. Isn't it mad? And so have you found the same thing with your brand, with your work? Is that being fed back to you as well, and is that influencing what you do? Sorry.
I love how you said earlier. So for us, I suppose, I didn't set this up because I want people to have no wrinkles and no pores and no lines, and that's always our message. Our message is that we want you to have time to yourself, we want you to take a little bit of time to yourself, to value yourself, have a bit more self-worth, and it's not aesthetic. Aesthetic is a byproduct of it, but for me it really is just about having, like, just feeling happier in yourself, and actually believing that it's a bit of hair. So I suppose my goal is then always to explain that, there's elements of inside and outside, and one will always, like, inside will, what you do inside is obviously going to have the largest impact, let's not lie, but you can help yourself in lots of different ways.
I think you kind of have to help yourself in lots of different ways. I mean, from what, like, if people were getting enough carotenoids in their diet, if the food had the carotenoids, like, i.e. if the soil had the carotenoids,
that's the problem though. It's then the soil and the nutritional value of it, and how
and everyone goes
and then how you cook. Don't come to my house. Like, there's no nutritional value left by the time I've cooked. Like, it's just boiled to a cinder, it's fogged on the plate. Like,
that's the Irish way to a large degree when it comes to cooking as well, isn't it? I mean, like, people are maybe coming away from that to a degree in the last few years. But what I end up talking to people so much about in the shop, we have this shop called the Hopsack Health Food Store thingy, and most people who come in, you'll kind of talk diet and sugar and caffeine and hydration, and when it gets to the diet bit, they'll say, like, I drink enough water. You're like, cool, what's that? And say, 2 or 3 glasses a day. Okay, so that's like less than a litre. And do you have coffee? Yeah, 2 or 3 cups a day. Okay, so like minus that, and you have 0 water, right? And then we'll say about food, and they'll say, okay, well, I eat a balanced diet, eat well. Oh God, how often do you hear that? And you're like, give me what was breakfast? And you're like, well, it was a slice of toast today. Actually, did I have breakfast today? You're like, okay, right, there's a little work to do.
But also, it's like, what's the quality of the water?
Absolutely,
as well,
yeah, all those things, yeah.
But it's
not
balance,
just the volume of the thing.
But it's an inner. I think, like, because our consultation form. So to explain the Nerd Network, it's basically a membership. So you pay €50, you're part of our world. You get a consultation. It's like 30-40 minutes long. We're not biased to any brand. We'll teach you what we think you need, what you don't need, and we ask you to fill out a skin diary. So like, how much me time do you have? How much computer time do you have? How much water, fiber, protein, carbs, etc. are you getting? And like, we never check up on people, but we ask people a month later, like, what did you learn about yourself? And I actually don't eat well.
Interesting.
And I don't actually have any me time, and I don't actually eat a lot of breakfast, and dinner doesn't exist. I don't have any protein in my diet, so how can I expect my collagen, elastin, proteins? So it's just trying to join the dots and educate people, rather than just saying cleanse, tone, moisturize.
Yes, absolutely.
And I
feed
think
the skin, like it said, feed it on, feed it in.
It's really that thing though that we were talking about earlier as well, is like, we have this bizarre disconnect where we go, like, down below here we do exercise, up here we shove stuff on the outside.
Yeah.
and that's it. We're not looking at it as like
And-
one big long thing.
Yeah,
I love it because people won't exercise this part as easily, or you have to really teach them, as you well know. And then similarly, people won't put product onto this part.
Yes.
So
That's
it's
very
like
true,
the
yeah.
complete
Opposite, isn't it?
Yeah, skins and organ from top to toe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's important. I mean, it's part of our immune system, and
Yeah.
no one thinks of it that way.
That's
They're
true.
just like, what do I look like with my skin? Or if you have an inflammatory condition, like, oh, my skin's this really annoying thing that's bugging me. But there's no like, and this is actually our protection, like it's our first line of defense.
Absorption,
And
excretion,
we need to
everything,
look
like all
after
sorts of
it.
things going on.
But
Yeah.
I think there's an emotional disconnect. So an awful lot of the time we'll have somebody come through in their 30s that would have had acne in their like teens, 20s perhaps, and they just don't like themselves because they've started looking at their skin and they just see negativity. So I think there's a lot for people to have to go through and deal with when it
Yeah.
is skin.
And it's so personal as well, skin, isn't it? I mean, like I've been dealing with this, if you follow me on social media, you'll know I've been dealing with this histamine reaction thing that I got histamine poisoned 2 years ago. So I've been having lots of flare-ups on my skin, and having been someone who's always just had good skin, I never had to think about it before really. I was suddenly having to go and teach face yoga events, and I couldn't put anything on my skin. I couldn't wear any makeup, and I was having like, for me, what felt like really bad skin, you know, and having to stand up in front of people and go like, here, let me tell you about skin, and you're feeling like everyone's staring at you going, well, your skin's terrible. What are you doing talking about it? It's such a personal thing because it's the first way we relate to people is we look at their face.
Yes.
And their face is that skin that we're thinking about. So when we think about skin, we think about this. That's what we think about as our skin.
True.
We kind of forget this because this is closed,
Yeah.
and we can
Well, in this
hide all the
country,
stuff.
It definitely is.
And also our
Brilliant.
proportionality is like skewed.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
totally skewed. You're like, okay, well, you know when people say like, oh, I have a really bad gut or I sleep really badly, it's usually like you're gonna say, okay, well, diary that for 5 weeks and tell me how many nights you slept really badly, or diary that for 5 weeks and tell me how often you have an upset stomach, or whatever. And quite often it's so much less than you imagine, but your nervous system magnifies the negative stuff because we're programmed to feed
focus on
that.
that.
Yeah, because that
Yeah.
protects us from whatever dinosaurs or whatever it is.
Yeah, because they're still around.
Yeah, I know. How do you individualize those consultations then? How do you, because we're talking about that aspect of like people's emotional response to whatever's going on to their skin. Like when you're doing those forms, how do you feed that aspect into it? That must be difficult to do in an online scenario, because I have difficulty even in person when I'm dealing one-to-one with people.
It is. I suppose, so we have Nerd, so I don't do the consultations.
Okay.
So the guys that have come to work for me are far better than I will ever be at consults. I really
Okay.
believe that people that work for me have to bring their own charisma. Anyway,
Sure.
so they're all actually have come from holistic and healing backgrounds, and then
Okay.
happen to love skin. So it's actually a perfect match.
Yeah.
But there has been many people that we've had to refuse consults with, or we've had to recommend them on for different analysis, or they
Okay.
do need medical attention because they're so low in themselves that it would be wrong of us to not then consider that they need more help than anything that we can offer.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're right. It's interesting though. A lot of people always find that the consult part being online, they're dubious because this whole online world.
Uh-huh.
But I argue, and there's pros and cons to everything in
Sure.
life, and there's a lot. Like I'm a real touchy-feely, like touch
Yeah.
people person, so I do miss that part. But because they feel like they're formed for like 20-30 minutes at home on their own, they give you so much information
Okay,
that
yeah.
when you're in front like that with the water, how much water? 2 liters. Why? Because you're looking at them and you're going to
Yeah.
judge them.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah,
if they're at home, they're like, never drink water.
Okay.
And like you
Yeah.
get such honest answers
Yeah,
from
yeah,
people
yeah.
because you're not kind of sitting there looking.
And
Yeah.
it's so
They're
true. When
direct,
you're in
exactly.
front of someone, you
Yeah.
feel really like you have to perform really well.
Yeah,
You're like,
yeah.
I do,
Because
I
you
drink,
know
I
I
drink
should
all the
do
Isn't it
water.
weird? Yeah.
Yeah.
You've come for help. It's okay. Yeah.
It's hard to
We all
say
need
like, not great at
Yeah.
that.
Mm.
You
But
know.
that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, what
That's
are your health and wellness routines other than your skincare stuff?
Yes.
Like, what do you do for me time?
Oh, every morning, only since January, like I've been a demon. Like, so the last 2 years working for myself now in July. No, just sooner than that. I really wasn't great. Like, work was my everything, and my whole self-health went out the window. So I get up every morning, I go, well, every morning's dramatic, probably every second morning go for a walk on the beach.
Brilliant.
So I'm like 5 minutes from the beach at home. So like my beach is like my
Nice.
favourite place in the world. Sometimes I'm gonna lie and like I actually drive down and look at the beach. Then I step out into the sun and I get back in. But like once I've had fresh air in the morning, that's kind of my
That's
thing.
massive. That's
Yeah.
And I think just knowing you've done it for yourself is massive as well,
I think
isn't
it's
it?
the time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just like
It is.
taking a little bit back for yourself, so that then when Matthew wakes or work starts calling, that you've kind of gotten your time in. So
Yeah.
now I can give because
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
a plate
yeah,
full to
yeah.
give something from.
Good
And
work.
it's very hard, isn't it? I think if you're a working mum, you're like, you work all day or you work in your different hours, and then you come home and you're like, you need time, but you also really want to make value of that time that you have with them, and it's
Yeah.
really hard to prioritize those two things.
Yeah.
When you choose like, oh well, actually I just need 10 minutes to myself and they can go do whatever, you still feel a little bit like, it doesn't sit super comfortable, and it's hard to get used to that feeling of like, it's
Taking
okay
time
for me
back.
to take that time back
Lots
for
of my
me.
friends are home at the moment, and like they're home and their job is their children, and I actually feel I get more time to myself than they, because I would probably run like, so I get up at this time, I have my brunch, and I'm really structured, whereas they have no structure. So I actually feel for them that they also feel the guilt, but they
Totally.
can't find the time to themselves.
But they don't get lunch break,
Yeah.
No.
you know, or space between
Yeah.
meetings. And
Yeah.
Or
So-
just time in the car. Like the time in the car for me is like
It's
an
huge,
absolute
isn't it?
Yeah, it's just.
Or even
love
yesterday,
it.
I was like,
Podcast.
I'm going to
Yeah,
Tesco's on my
exactly.
own.
Yeah.
I was like so happy sitting in the car outside Tesco's going, oh my god, I get to go
I
in on
just
my
give you really
own.
bad news. So like and this is gonna freak people out, but like Matthew, like we have such an open house. Like he walks around the place just in boxers, like he's so comfortable in himself, comfortable in his own skin. And like I'm sitting on the toilet, and he'll just like walk in. I'm like, Matt, seriously, like you're nearly 16, pal. Like when is this going to stop? Like when can I sit on the toilet myself? He's like, I just want to talk to you. I'm like, outside. Like you can talk to me
God.
outside. So you never actually get time to
You
yourself.
never do.
Wahaha.
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
still go on holidays with you for 3 weeks in India. So like you
That's
just
I know.
amazing. Yeah.
in the
can't get
toilet
rid of them.
at the same time.
Do you know what was interesting about that? Because we were in the same room the whole time when we were away, and I was like, there was an initial sort of like mild discomfort because we were just having to get dressed functionally to move, and we were having to get up
Yeah.
at 5 o'clock some days to catch buses or flights or whatever, and you sort of very quickly get past the part of having like any fear of that, and it's totally different to when you get past that fear with having like a roommate. It's your mother again, and you're kind of like, this is actually kind of nice.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird, getting dressed in the same room as your mum?
Yeah.
And both of you not caring about it. And there's something great in stripping back that part of, I'm not saying you just necessarily have to be naked to do that, but like the emotional stripping back that actually comes as a result of that, and that kind of like that sort of vulnerability, you're like, this is just okay. And there's less kind of like, okay, I'm going to see mum now, I'm going to dress up and go for Sunday dinner, you know?
It's so
Yeah.
nice. It's so true, that thing though, because you have it, like obviously my son's younger, so like he's sleeping in my bed most nights still, and necessarily we end up being naked a lot because it's hot or whatever, so we're just completely, and I would be that person anyway who's just like walking around the house naked, grand, do you know, that way. So that's my house. But I know, and my mum's house was like that growing up, we would have all been very relaxed, but there comes that point where suddenly you're like, I'm gonna just do my knickers and like, you know,
Yeah.
not do it in front of my mum, and then going home to your mum's and you're like, I'll put my best clothes on and I'll do my makeup and I'll do my hair and whatever, and that naturally just makes that distance between you because you're putting your best self forward.
Yeah.
And it's really
Actual
nice to
self.
get to that place where you're like, okay, we're going swimming, we're completely naked, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
your body's the body of a 60-year-old, my body's the body of a 30-year-old who's had a kid, you know, like,
Yeah.
and just being like, oh, actually we're really human, because we tend to like hold ourselves in these kind of, here's my best bits. And when you just strip it all back, you can both be like, it's okay that I made a mistake today, or I can just tell you I'm having a really
you
tough
feel much
time
more able to have
actually.
those conversations actually, and that's
I
genuinely
think-
what started to happen after 3 weeks of this. Yeah,
Really?
oh,
Will you
definitely.
do it again?
I'd love to. We were already talking about it the day we came back. We're like, we're next.
You have to book it. You're right. It's like literally once you book, you're
Yeah.
committed.
You're gone.
You're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
there's
in
lots
every
of
way.
places. Japan for the
I
cherry
went to
blossom
Japan
thing.
in August.
Really?
So
Tell us.
excited.
I'm so
Don't know
jealous.
the ins and outs yet. Just have the time booked.
Oh my God.
Cannot wait to go.
So you're
very
booking to
excited.
go with your son or
So
on your
for
own?
work, so it'll be me and
Okay.
potentially one other person. Depends on who's good.
Me,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
go work together soon.
We're good, surely.
Your mom can come. We can all go. No,
Sounds
I'm
good.
really looking forward to that. So, but I do
Amazing.
think you have to book something just to commit to it. Then you can figure out all the fine details nearer the time.
Yeah.
It's just taking. It's just
Make sure you get up
booking
to
the time.
Hokkaido.
Okay.
I'm sure. Have you heard of
I've heard
Hokkaido?
it, yeah,
So
yeah.
that's one of the northern ones. That's where like a lot of the kind of the you know, the octogenarians and the people who kind of lived longest come from, and it's a really
Okay.
slow part of Japan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
stop.
And are you
God,
gonna
and
are you
all that
gonna go
island culture
investigate
stuff.
all the rice, all the traditional Japanese?
So yeah, so ultimately I've been really lucky. So a brand has come to me and say like, where would you like to go in the whole wide world? And I'm like, well, Japan, because it's kind of like J beauty is a huge concept in the beauty world right now. So yes, I've only kind of started dabbling in it. So yeah, ridiculously excited.
Well,
But
there's
cherry
so
blossoms are
many
definitely
exciting things. There's all the blotting papers and the like rice creams
And the
all
speed
the
of
rice.
Tokyo and
Oh.
all the like everything of
different
it,
world.
isn't it? Culturally, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's
I
so
am
exciting! You
looking
lucky
forward to
devil.
that.
Sushi.
J beauty, explain that too quickly. That's a
So
concept.
J
that-
beauty. So
yeah.
I went to Korea about 2.5 years ago. So that's Korean beauty was kind of
Yeah.
huge then, and they really believed in like 16 different skincare steps. Whereas J beauty is more of like a skip care trend. So it's all about like minimalist. Just want like kind of core 4
Hero
concepts.
product
You need
things.
exactly.
Okay,
You need
yeah.
like 4 products every day, key ingredients,
Yeah.
like a dinner plate. That's what you should go
Uh-huh,
for. And I
cool.
really would identify with that more than the
It's more
Yeah.
intuitive, isn't it?
And
Yeah,
jade
yeah.
rollers.
yes.
Do you use jade rollers actually?
We like, so our clients adore jade rollers, like adore them. So I came across that again when I was in Korea. I couldn't get my head around it. But
Yeah,
it does make sense
Yeah.
though.
It's
You could do it
lymphatic
with your
drainage.
hands.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's just, will people
Yes.
actually stop to do that? No.
Yeah.
You buy a device, yes.
I
do it.
know.
But
it's
it's
the
also
thing,
like,
isn't
Well,
it?
you own these already.
I know, but you know what it is? It's the ritual. though,
Yeah.
isn't
True.
it? It's
And it is
like the
cooling.
little whisking thing when you do with matcha. Whiskey's great.
Sure.
Take that. No, the
whiskey
whisking thing
face
with
mask coming up
matcha.
soon.
When you have your nice bamboo whisk,
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
I will have my matcha this morning, and
Ah.
I will whisk it, and I
You've
will be
invested.
mindful. You
Yeah.
have, and that
Yeah.
jade thing, it's beautiful.
Yes.
And so you're like,
Do
the
you use
jade.
the roller or the stone? The stone is stunning.
Really?
Oh.
It
No.
kind of fits the contour of your face.
Oh no,
So you
haven't.
can really drain.
Brr.
Ooh.
It is beautiful.
You
I'll
know
send you
those.
out some
Have
as
a
a little
roller.
present.
Dude,
Yeah.
Amazing.
Not you.
Oh, what? I'm going to be stealing.
Don't you?
She stole my jade roller already.
You're grand.
Yeah, fine, that's true.
I
will
need
be
it
okay.
for my skin.
That's so needy. Jade rollers and Japanese trips. I mean, thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
This has
Delighted.
We could
We
talk
came
much-
across each other last year, and you're
Hmm.
just a beautiful soul. So, and I suppose people always ask me about facial yoga, and it's not my area. So whenever I don't know the answer, I always believe you have to
Amazing.
like attract yourself to the person that knows the answer.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, thank you both for having me and inviting me, and so much respect for what you do. So thank you.
Nice.
Yay. We're going to
Nice.
work together soon.
Yes.
Oh, that's very
Yeah.
exciting.
We've been
We really have
threatening
to.
it for
I'll
Yeah.
actually
months.
stay tuned.
Yeah,
Not
but-
for a whiskey-based face mask though. Something,
Yeah.
something more.
No, we don't
Totally
know.
inspired right now.
Who knows?
But no, I'd love to do that. So thank you both very much.
Wicked.
My
Wicked, wicked.
pleasure.
Okay. Nice. one.
Yeah.
So-
So thank you for watching.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Hopefully you're still watching.
Yeah, indeed, or listening or whatever. So you guys, obviously, you'll find post your comments and stuff on YouTube and on Spotify or wherever you found us, and we'll try and get your comments over. Jennifer, not Sinead. That's another outtake. Excuse me. And yeah, and so we'll try and have follow up with you as well. And you're taking us to Japan, so we're definitely doing a second podcast. So that's brilliant.
Exciting.
And thank you very much to our sponsors as well, briefly, Newsest and Clear Light Saunas, infrared saunas. Didn't get a chance to talk about that.
Oh yeah, and that's such a
Um,
skin thing.
Yeah, isn't it?
We have
And
to do more.
Yes,
That's
yes,
our
yes,
homework.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And Swivel, who have made this lovely device that we're shooting on. So I guess that's probably it.
Yeah.
Yeah, deadly. So where can people find you?
So you can find us on social media. We're always the Skin Nerd.
Sweet, that's so handy. Not like a million different handles for a million different
No,
No,
platforms.
it's like
all
me,
the same.
yoga with Lydia.
Just
Nice.
done.
People are like, could you make a more interesting name? And I'm like, yeah, but you see,
It
people
says what it
forget
is.
it.
Yeah.
People know, like, I do yoga. My name's Lydia. There we go.
Can't get easier than that.
Yoga something, Lydia. Yoga for Lydia. Yoga.
What is it that she does?
Yeah.
Yoga. Her name's Lydia. Oh, there she is.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for
Thank
watching.
you.
Deadly. Chat to you again.
Titty.